like behind the scene pictures of us hugging in between the most intense scenes between setups. It was remarkable. Actually, I look back on those pictures and like between Ana Rosa holding a gun up to my head, cut, and then we're hugging. I'm like, are you okay? Like, and she's asking me, and I'm like, yeah, you know, like we very much held that space. And Isabel, of course. Hi, Isabel.
Hi. Yeah, it was a really cool set to be a part of. It was one of those things where I think we all felt the importance of the story that we were telling, and we all felt very connected through not just the story, but also through the relationships that we formed with each other. And I think that even the last day was the scene when we filmed the last scene in the movie, and I just remember we all were just crying the entire time. And I think it's just because we had really bonded, and I think we all understood not only the safe space that Deborah had created for us, but in that scene, a lot of women told their true stories of their own assaults in the past, and that was a really powerful night to be a part of, and to feel like we had not just created a movie, but we had created a movie that would spur conversations about this issue. And that's I remember that was like a really profound feeling, and I think we all were very emotional about it at the moment, and then even still watching the movie, it makes me very emotional.
And Eve is here. Eve is in our chat box. And I would bring her up if she wanted to. But Eve was one of the women that shared her story in that final circle. And it was such an honor to have these women come.
And Jazz is here.
Who?
Jazz.
And Jazz is here. Oh, Jazz. Hi. Yeah. And Jazz shared her story. And these women, you know, came on, and it was a very special night because I asked Ana Rosa if I could share with everyone in the room that this was her story. Because at that point, Ana Rosa was not going to come forward and say that this was her story. But she did allow me to share that with the women in the room, and it just raised the stakes so high, I thought, in terms of every single person in that room speaking their truth. It was just extraordinary evening. Let me jump back into these questions. Do you feel, I think this is for you, Ana Rosa from Lavinia, do you feel a form of relief personally since the film? I'm sure the anxiety has calmed down.
Thank you, Lavinia. Yes, it's been quite a lot of anxiety, really around the New York Times article, because I didn't realize in speaking to Mike Wilson, it was a lot of excavating and going back, and I hadn't told the story in a long time, and it was a little hard to go back and try to remember it, and luckily Deborah was right there with me, but I realized excavating the story one more time and sharing it one more time to the New York Times caused a whole like physical reaction in my body, and I really freaked out, and Deborah had to save me big time. But you know, we made the film in 2018, and we sort of had a kind of typical, I feel, or somewhat, I don't know, just the struggle of independent film, trying to get your film out into the world. So that wasn't so much anxiety as like excitement. Like we just wanted to share it. We just wanted the world to see what we made. And you know, it's not hard. It's not easy for a lot of films like ours to get to where we've made it to now. Even like COVID won't keep us down. Like we are getting our film out. And I think the big relief was, it really was the same day. We released the film on this amazing platform that Together Films threw together for us in a very short amount of time. And this New York Times article came out on March 26th. And that was, after that, it was like, okay, the threshold has been crossed. And also this nice thing happened for everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people in your life start messaging you and saying the nicest things. So that feels very good. Just such encouraging words and love coming from all corners. People I hadn't spoken to in a while, dear friends, all the gamut. And then I got to meet people like you, Lavinia, and Debbie Millman and Roxanne Gay and Demaine Davis and Numa Perrier, like incredible directors who I admire. So the whole experience now has been kind of a great relief and such. I've just been held in all of this connection doing this every night. And I do have to say, it's also connecting with the other women in the lawsuit. I mean, that was like mind blowing, and they're like friends to me now, and we like talk a lot, and it's like feeling our heart, and there's real freedom. Those of us who are out really with our names out, who've just sort of been like, we're telling the world, we are free. And I think it becomes more so each day that goes by, like more freedom. And I'm so grateful to Deborah for taking my story and bringing it out, but also I think it came from a vision of something. It came from, there is something we can do to help change how women can deal with anything that's happened to them, and how we can connect with each other, and how we can move this needle, move this shame away from our bodies and ourselves, hand it back to abusers and people in power who are holding people down. You know, we can use this narrative, and we can be here and everywhere and just fucking riot. Like, let's do it. I don't know. Everyone around here has just really inspired me. So I'm ready for like a revolution. Let's do it.
Thank you. You know what? This question, we can start with you, Anna Rosa, and then I think it'd be cool I think it's mostly directed to you, Anna Rosa, but I think it's applicable to all of the cast. What was it like to be on set, reliving those moments from another's perspective, and how did you protect yourself during that process? Only if it's comfortable in sharing. Also, as a director, how did you create a protective space for all of the actors in the critical scenes? I think I answered that. If you need more on that, Summer, just put a little note in the box. But why don't we talk about what it was like to be on set, reliving those moments, and how did you protect yourself?
The set was incredibly nurturing. Literally, like every crew member was just a wonderfully respectful person. Really, everybody was. This was a very special crew and cast in general. Just people who care, who really care, and who are very respectful. I'm just repeating myself now. So that's thing one. Thing two is about performing this role. I mean, like Deborah said, it was like, it just completely blows me away every time. And to actually be on set, there was a day that I was kind of had snuck on and watched a little bit of the work she was doing, and it really did. It made me feel less stupid. Is the bottom line. I just saw a real amazing woman in a predicament trying to solve it, and I was able to sort of find compassion for myself watching her incredible work and her the places she went to emotionally in this is just so deeply generous, and I'm just so grateful. Literally no one else could have done this the way you did, and I know Deborah always had you in mind. So anyway, we love you so much, and I love you so much. So that was massive. And one other piece, I think we were talking about this last scene, that we all knew it was everyone's personal story. I think feeling that in the room, as well as I really did, I just felt the presence of women who said Me Too, women who were speaking up about Harvey, And it really felt cathartic to sort of hold them with me in my rage, because I'm still really angry. I think we all are. And to get to put it somewhere useful, even if I'm waving a gun in a restaurant in Harlem, I think I felt so connected to everybody who's had to have a story like this. And we're pissed, and it's okay. I think we can celebrate all of the feelings we have and make these spaces for one another.
Yeah.
Isabel
or Tarek, do you want to jump in?
I mean, I think that we shot the movie so quickly, and I think that was kind of like the biggest armor, I would say, is like we had a rehearsal period that was short, but we were able to really bond as a cast. And then I feel like we had no room to, like, you know, not necessarily make mistakes. I think that's the wrong word. We had a lot of, obviously, room to play. It was a very safe and like wonderful environment on set, but we didn't have a lot of time. And so it was like we had all prepared so much so that way we could come to set every day and be ready to play, because you didn't know if you had time for more than 1 or 2 takes. And I think in a way that was sort of an armor and an asset, which I don't think it always can be in certain scenarios when you're filming something. But this was so story driven and character driven, and so much of it was, you know, a predicament that Pearl finds herself in. And so much of what I felt every day on set was that my biggest like asset was honestly just to listen, and to listen and absorb what was being said. And in difference to how I normally prepare for projects, which is normally I like pour over every single line and word of the script, not even the ones that I say. I think in this one specifically, I tried not to read any of the dialogue that Tarek's character Lux says to Pearl when I was learning my own lines, because I felt like I needed to have fresh ears to hear it the way that you would hear that being told to you in a moment. And I think that it really made my performance, I think, more open and vulnerable. I think we forget very often how important it is to listen sometimes. And I think it was very easy in the moment, but I would go home and obviously it's a subject matter that you take home with you. So I think it was more so that I was able to kind of seclude myself in the time that I was filming this and didn't do anything other than this for, you know, the days that we were filming, because, you know, A, there was no time, but B, also because I think emotionally when you give so much to something, you don't have very much to give when you go home, and that's when it really kind of hits you. So I took a lot of baths and I cried a lot. But I think it was really one of those things where I felt very, because of the space that Devil created, I felt very open and very raw every day on set. And I think that it was really easy to kind of step into those shoes and just say the words and listen, and understand. And, you know, I think very often that's the best thing that you can do to tell a story is just listen. And when you have really great actors to play with, it's just really easy. And like I said, I think Omarosa really gave me so much strength on a daily basis to feel like I could take her experience and turn it into something that she could look at and find compassion for herself. Because I think anyone hearing a story like this, I think as women, we're kind of taught to feel like it's a judgment. And instead, I think the majority of responses that you get from women is compassion, because I think you realize how quickly so many women experience this. And I think that was, it was just it was a tough subject matter, but I don't think it really hit me until after we had finished. And we had a weird sort of thing where we filmed the 11 days, and our last day we had to move a week later because the place we were filming the last scene in the movie and wasn't available and so that week I just remember I felt like it was like this weird sort of like pause button on something, and everything kind of like hit me all at once during that week. And we were like simultaneously celebrating the movie at the same time, and we were like, oh, it's done. And it was like this exciting sort of thing. And I just remember I was like, oh my God, I was like, wow, whoa. I think you can tell your mind that what you're doing on a daily basis, like as an actor, is fake, but you carry all of those things in your chest and your bones, and you like go home and you feel them, whether you want to or not. They create the same knots in you as they do for people. And I think that's like the best and worst part of the gig, is like you really get to like feel somebody's pain. And I think that like Ana Rosa said, it's like you have to be able to feel and celebrate everything that you feel, good and bad.
Yeah.
Tarek?
Yeah. What was the question again?
The question, was,
I'll tell you. So the question was, what was it like to be on set, reliving those moments from another person's perspective, and how did you protect yourself during that process?
So for me, it began in the dialogue. When I had the script for a while before, even if there were rewrites, to me, the first thing of, okay, I had to find who this person was and why he did the things he did, or try to figure out why he did the things he did. So I did my own work, like Isabel was talking about. He had a lot of dialogue, and when the first couple of times I read it, I'm like, I don't know how to make it believable kind of thing. And I think it all came into perspective when I sat down with Ana Rosa and we really talked about what actually happened and how the process took place over time. So that's that. In terms of experiencing from Ana Rosa's perspective, I mean, she was just so generous in sharing with us, both Isabel and I, what really went on. And those exercises that Deborah was speaking of before, the intimacy exercises, when Ana Rosa sat across from me speaking Pearl's lines in the movie to me, and I know that this had happened to her. I mean, as a human being, you cannot watch that and not feel connected to someone, not have, empathy and respect and, all sorts of feelings that were going on. One of the things I had to figure out for myself is not feel like how to not feel like an awful person because I was playing this guy, and to give myself permission to believe the things he was saying on set so it could be believable. Like, the whole thing with the nudity with him, and something me and Deborah and I spoke about quite extensively. If there was, I prefer not to be naked on set amongst an entire crew of people, but he had to feel so comfortable in his skin at those moments that if I had any bit of self-consciousness as the actor, it wouldn't have worked. And so Deborah had created an environment where it was a total safe space, number one. Number two, I had that bond with both Isabel and Ana Rosa, and we had blocked those things previously. Everything was understood. Every single time I'd be doing those scenes with Isabel in rehearsal or shooting them, we had a very active dialogue that was going on the entire time to make sure that she felt comfortable, I felt comfortable, everyone was feeling there wasn't anything going on besides what was in the scene and what we had to get done that day. But still, we're human, and I would go home and have a very hard time because getting inside the mind of someone like this is my job. Thank God, I love it. I'm so grateful to be a part of this movie and other things I've done. But you go to sleep and you're thinking about this guy. It doesn't take 2 seconds to shed. And there would be mornings I would wake up. Deborah can tell you the story. There was a couple of days where I would wake up in the morning. I would wake up weeping. I mean, I wasn't even like I'd wake up and have coffee and then get emotional. it's because he's in there. And I became friends with Ana Rosa and loved her so much so right away that it was like, oh my God, this happened to someone I know. Like, I want to beat the crap out of this guy. You know, all those instincts started taking over in weird ways. And I think that we did a great job on set. I say we because it takes really the village to do that, of creating the space of like, everyone do their job, feel safe, feel comfortable. This is the story we're here to tell. And, you know, feel free to go where you need to go with this. And I feel like we all kind of, I hope or feel that we achieve that, because I think that that's the most important thing when you're taking something like Ana Rosa's story and elevating it into art. It takes so much courage and so much passion and so much tenacity that you want to be able to honor those things. And I think that, you know, Deborah and Ana Rosa did a fantastic job, and Isabel, of course, did a fantastic job of keeping that set feeling protected, feeling safe, feeling comfortable.
Yeah. We actually have a question with an asterisk, which means I have my first brave soul who wants to come up and ask a question. It's Maddie Bowl. I'm going to try to get her up here. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, Isabel, Sophia had asked a question, and she's asking now if you might answer it. It was before you came on, and Ana Rosa and Tarek both addressed it, but she said, I have two questions. I'm a young actress who's currently in acting school. I hope to start working in 2 years or so. Do you have any suggestions on navigating the industry when it comes to predatory behavior from the men in power, as well as the beauty standards set for women? Example, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too skinny, you're too fat, you need plastic surgery, etc. Would you like to throw your 2 cents on that while I try to get Maddie up here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would say is, I think in this post, you know, Me Too sort of era, I think we're very fortunate that I think there's been steps taken in the right direction in terms of how to avoid this behavior. That being said, there are always situations like this, and I think the biggest thing that you can do to protect yourself is just always trust in your support system around you. I think very often when you have a dream and a goal, it's hard to lean on certain people, and when you feel like you can't, you know, lean on certain people to say, like, does this look right? Does this seem right? And trusting your gut and your own intuition at the same time, I think it becomes really, you know, confusing in those situations, because your drive and desire to succeed is what predators like this tend to prey upon. And that's the biggest problem, is I think you kind of have to be very aware of yourself and what you offer and what value you bring and how much value you truly have to anything, and understand that if someone is not able to see what you can bring to something without asking for something in return, then they're not necessarily worth it. And if it feels funny, it probably is. I think that there are situations where it doesn't necessarily even have to be somebody being, you know, outwardly predatory in a way that, you know, this movie depicts. I mean, I've been in a situation where I was offered something at the same time that I was weighing an option to do another project, and the male director on the project didn't want me to take the weekend to decide, which is a totally reasonable thing to ask when you're making a decision about your career. Like, it's a Friday, give me 2 days. And I remember, because we had met on FaceTime, he had my phone number and called me the entire day on Saturday. And I remember calling my agents and being like, even if I decided to do this project, I can't work with somebody like that. It's not, I don't feel safe already. And I haven't even said yes, you know, it just didn't sit right with me, you know, that somebody was trying to pressure me into making a decision when I felt like I was asking for a reasonable amount of time to make that decision for myself. So I think that you just have to trust your gut and understand that, like, if something doesn't feel right, you don't want to be in that situation to begin with. And just know that you'll find your own path. You will. And there's always ways around it. I think in terms of like physical appearance. I think that you should always, I think if people want to modify something about themselves for themselves, that's totally your decision and your choice. But I think that if you are doing that because of somebody else telling you something, then that's an issue. Like, it has to be a decision that you make for yourself. And I think you have to feel like aware of how you feel about that. I mean, I think there are very often situations where people want you to cut your hair or dye your hair or whatever. But that also is your choice. And so you should just be aware that that is always your choice, and you should always stand by your choice. And you'll always find a path in a pocket. I think there are many stories that any actor can tell you of, when they're younger, being put in situations where they didn't feel right and went a different way, and other people did that and had no problem, or somebody didn't go so well. So I think you just have to trust yourself, and again, like, leaning on your support system. I'm really lucky that my mom, my sister, and I have a good relationship, and anytime I feel like something's not right, I talk to them about it. And it was my sister who told me when I was 18 and I got offered a job and they wanted to see my boobs, and I said I personally wasn't uncomfortable with the idea of nudity, but I was more uncomfortable with the idea of other people seeing that, and also what I would think about it a year down the line, and whether or not I would be okay with it, because I didn't feel like I was old enough to make that decision for myself. I was like, I guess I'm 18, but I'm not old enough to make this choice. Like, wait, what? So yeah.
Thank you.
We have our guest.
So we have our guest. We have Maddie has joined us. Maddie, your mic is muted. You unmuted it. Thank you for jumping up here with us. What is your question?
Yeah, no worries. Hi, everybody. I'm Maddie. Thanks so much for putting this on. I'm a student filmmaker at USC, a couple weeks from graduating, which is exciting. Can't wait to graduate from Zoom University, as we lovingly call it. So my question was, a couple years back, I worked with several other student filmmakers, and we made a series tackling sexual assault within the entertainment industry. So I really appreciate what you guys have done with this project, and I know it's so hard day in and day out, especially listening to what you all were saying about the process of trying to get into the mindset of someone that is thinking thoughts that you, Tarek, would never, ever, cross that line. So I think the question I wanted to pose to you all was, a lot of the times when people come forward with their stories, I think that it's often sort of shot down as, oh, that's unbelievable, right? That's so preposterous. That's ridiculous. So how do you think films like Tape and other projects help to sort of take away that idea of this is unbelievable by putting it onto a visual format that people can access?
I think specifically for our movie, which Deborah and I and everyone in this cast we've all talked about, is I think this is probably one of the first movies that takes you inside of the room when that happens. And that's what I think Deborah has done incredibly well in this, in not only taking on a Rosa story and writing this, but also in the way that she directed all of us. Is I think that that's a situation that people are nervous to show on camera. And I think that because Deborah didn't shy away from it, I think that that's why our movie is uncomfortable for some to watch, but that's because that's how that situation is. And I think it encapsulates the feeling that all women have at certain points in their life when they're in a room with a man and they feel uncomfortable, and they can tell that somebody wants something out of them and they don't know, they're just trying to solve a problem in front of them. But I'm sure, Deborah, you can speak to that more, but I think that that's what sets our movie apart in a really massive way, is I think it shows you how this actually happens.
Yeah, and I've had that kind of feedback since the beginning of all my films. All my films have been semi-autobiographical, very personal. And the critics have mostly said, your films are over the top, they're unbelievable. And simultaneously, I receive emails and letters in the mail from all over the country saying, thank you for telling my story. So I have to hold tight to the people I'm making it for, right? My ego, of course, wants the critics to love it. Of course it does. But the artist in me didn't make it for the critics. It made it for the audience, mostly who have experienced a similar story. And so that's what I have to keep coming back to, is the people I made it for. You know, it was really interesting because there's been some criticism about that last scene from the critics being unbelievable. But when we had our Q&A the other night with Anna Rosa and 3 of the women from the lawsuit who are suing the exact perpetrator that is in this film that Anna Rosa experienced, every single one of them said that was their favorite moment in the movie. So that's what I have to keep coming back to, is especially the women who I receive notes from saying, thank you for telling my story. And that's what I have to hold tight to. And, you know, I think part of it is probably style, right? I've seen some recent films by women filmmakers that are subtle and quiet. And I think like they're like doing these fine line drawings or ink paintings, and I'm like fucking throwing paint on the canvas. And, you know, so that's my style, and I guess they don't like it. And, you know, again, my ego wants them all to love it. But you know what? It's the story I have to tell. It's either my truth or a woman I know's truth. And this is how I'm telling it. And that's what I hold tight to. So I'm guessing you've had a similar experience. And I would just say to you, keep speaking your truth. You know, however you get it out. And I say, and I might have said this because I came and visited your class, like whisper it out. Scream it out, vomit it out if you have to. I have vomited my truth out, I can tell you that. And, you know, that's what we need, because every time a woman speaks her truth, another woman can hear herself. And then she has the courage to speak her truth. And then another woman can hear herself. That's what the Me Too movement was. That's what we as artists have to do. And so thank you for the question. You know, congratulations that you're going to be moving out in the world. Please stay in touch. And
Absolutely.
good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks, everybody. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to pop you off, and I'm going to try to get Anna Rosa back up here. And I do want to say we have a behind-the-scenes team, Together Films, who've been extraordinary. I want to let them know right now that if they need to step off this broadcast, they can do that now, and I will close out the night. But I would like to continue until we are finished with all of our questions, since it's the last
Deborah,
night.
can I for one? Sorry.
Oh, let me just say real quick. I just want to thank Sarah, Will, Alana, Becky, Shazia. Oh, who am I missing? Frankie. Sorry, Frankie. Frankie has been like #1 gal sometimes, so that wasn't an intentional skip. I think I've got everyone. I just want to thank Together Films for putting this online campaign together so very quickly, for being here to support us, making it so beautiful. Thank you all so much. I know you all have to hop off because they're over in the UK and it's like 4 a.m. there. So I just want to say thank you, Together Films. We'll continue this conversation until either the questions are answered or my panelists drop like flies. So I don't think it'll be that much longer. We don't have that many questions. But I did want to give my behind the scenes the night off and say again, thank you for this incredible 2 weeks. We love you guys. Yay. Tarek, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I wanted to expand upon what Isabel said, because I think it's a great point of, like, you know, that the movie goes inside the room. You know, I even think it's, you know, for me in the character, it's like, you know, it was even minute by minute how this happens. It was every conversation. It wasn't like what you hear in an article is like, sleep with me and I'll give you a part. It was a much slower, more methodical, more maniacal, much more convoluted. It was almost like Lux had this routine that he did every single time, and you watched the routine happen to someone that was smart, capable, and, you know, talented and ambitious and wanted to do something. So it's like, even when they get in the loft, minute by minute, you're watching Isabel playing Pearl, trying to decide what to do in that moment, trying to figure out, trying to reconcile, and me with seeing her be indecisive and then doing something else to manipulate the situation to be back into control of it. So it's a really interesting human dynamic that occurred in that room that I feel like is so different and so subtle and so truthful and believable that even if on the outside it's not believable when people share their stories, when you go really into the nuance, it's very believable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eve, there's some asterisks in front of one of your notes in the chat. Eve, if you want to jump up here, can you let me know in the chat and I'll try to bring you up? Also, I just want to, Isabel, someone left you a message. You may have seen it. Nydia, I believe is how you say it. I've been following your career for a while. I just want to read it out loud because I feel it's so beautiful. Thank you again for participating in this wonderful project. I'm a survivor. You saved my life again without even knowing who I am. Something that at the time I managed to get around prudently and did not evolve into something physical. I know the place I live in, Brazil, and situations like this have a very different result here. And I just, you know, that's going back to hearing from survivors is so meaningful to me. And you all holding the space in your performances so that people can see themselves reflected and see a truth maybe they couldn't face before. Okay, Eve wants to come up for questions. So, and Scotty wants to come up. So we'll bring you two up as well. Anna Rose, I'm gonna pop you out again because I know I can get you back. So here we go. I know, Isabel, you have a big evening. So if you need to jump off, you let us know as well. Okay, good. I'm going to try to bring Eve up. Eve has been here. I think Eve has been to every single one of these talks, which has been so lovely. And while we're waiting for her to pop up, why do women still find it hard to say no in the era of Me Too movement? That's asked by Diane. Do you have any thoughts on that, Isabel, while we're waiting?
I think that it's not necessarily a hard time saying no. I think it's that very often what we're presented with isn't the exact truth of what's going on. And that's what our movie is primarily about. There is a gray area when it comes to situations like this. I think people want it to be a black and white situation of somebody said no and somebody said, you know, wanted something. But I think that more often than not, it is a gray area. I mean, that is why having sex with someone who is intoxicated is assault, because they're not fully able to give their consent. You know, that is, and first and foremost, I mean, I think even consent, I think it's not just responsible on one party, it's both parties have to be not only consenting, but be 100% sure that the person that they are with is consenting and is aware of what they're consenting to. And I think that is why this is an issue that has kind of stayed buried for so long, even though it's something that affects, I think, almost, if not all, almost every single woman around the world. And I think that's why we need, you know, not just films like this, but we need people to come forward and tell their stories. We need people to, you know, listen. We need male allies like Tarek, you know, to be there for women when they see things like this, to hold a space for them that's safe. And I think that's, you know, it is something that is, we all want change to happen quickly, but real change doesn't happen quickly. It takes time, and it takes a community effort of everybody being involved and being a part of the conversation. And so I think that this is, you know, I guess we call ourselves like a post-Me Too movement movie, but the truth is this event happened prior to that, and there are still situations like this happening. There will still be situations like this happening, and it's our job to take the responsibility of understanding this story, understanding women's stories, and believing women's stories, and taking that forward, how we raise our kids and how they raise their kids, so that way we can evolve into a generation of people that don't do this to each other.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Eve, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I've been watching this, as you said, almost every night. I did miss one, but it's been a total revelation in terms of, first of all, the film itself. I think that something that Isabel was saying about generational is very true. Generationally, women have been abused, you know, that are my age, let's say older. We weren't brought up to call that abuse. I was taught that you do and want because basically, you know, you're their wife, or if you're not their wife, it's basically they're the rulers of the universe is kind of the concept, never those words, but that concept. And when things do happen, which they did for me many times, sometimes there was no question about it, and sometimes there was a question about it, like, did I do something that created this? You know, I mean, the typical stuff, like, you know, the clothing that you wear, or when I was in college and it was, you know, the free love movement, you know, and we were taking things that substances, and if I took the substance, and maybe it's my fault because I agreed to, you know, and therefore these things happen. And so that is the change that's happening now. I mean, I think that went on and on, even with the generations of today, but we weren't quite taught that same way. It's just, I don't even think that we were taught anything, or my kids, you know, I'm never discussed with them what constitutes this, because they would never want to discuss it with me. You know, it's not something that, you know, when they were teenagers, it'd be like, ew, I don't want to talk about this, you know. I think also when we're very young, we have a lot more, we're more open to things. And so when you, let's say you come out of college and you're eager to pursue, or high school, whatever, you're eager to pursue a career in this business, you know, this kind of career. And you're not really sure whether it's you know, how far you should go. You can work into your own head, but I think it's a matter of loving yourself ultimately, which, you know, even at my age, I still have issues with. If you really feel strongly about yourself, that you are a human being that has every right to say no, and has every right to ask for what they want, and I don't know, I think you get the gist of what I'm saying, then you wouldn't put yourself in that situation. You would allow your instinct to tell you, you know what, I'm going to get where I want to go, but I don't have to go here right now. I entered the business later in life, so quite a while ago. So for me, I think that I had a toughness that people, they didn't see the real me inside. So they said, I better not mess with her. But they're people like Isabel's character that she played that represents so many actors that really want to get ahead and you know, do whatever they need to do in order to have their dream come true. They don't even know that when the dream comes true, it may not be what they want, but that's their whole focus in life, is getting to where they want to go. And then they're exposed to this type of thing, which in the case of how Tarek played it was very subtle. The younger me, or maybe even the older me, might have fallen for that, because he was like, anything you want to do, you know, and here's a contract. And there were so many red flags. But if you don't love and respect yourself in the first place, then honestly, how could you, when you have been so abused and you're blaming yourself for that? So it's kind of like a catch-22. But when you're exposed to that, it's much more difficult to say no, when, you know, until the last moment, and then you're caught. And many times it's not as easy to get out of, you know, because now you're in the room and with that person, and you know, if you're not a virgin, somehow, you know, in your mind say, well, that's okay, you know, now, or I should just do it and get it over with, or maybe it'll still work out. Whatever it is, it's just, I don't know how to really address it. I would love to know of a way to educate young women and men to know what abuse is. And also, the very last thing I want to say, I posed this question and it was taken the wrong way a couple of nights ago. I have a son who's 36 years old, and he's a good guy. He's really a good guy. And he is afraid to almost go out. He was never one of the, he didn't even go on Facebook, but he's kind of afraid he's going to be falsely accused of something, that he didn't really do, like sleeping with a woman and she didn't like him. And, now that's not part of our conversation, but that does happen. And I think men in general, I don't know, Tarek, but you're the only guy on, but I don't know how men really are feeling, because a lot of us are going, well, we shouldn't be abusing. And I think partially we're forgetting that there are a lot of really good guys out there that are kind of afraid of this movement. And I'd like to see.
Can I tell you something? I thought about this a lot. It's okay if men are afraid right now. It's like men have abused women for so long. They misogyny and that women don't get paid the same, the way that they're discriminated against for their gender, every single level, the level of sexual abuse, how they're child sex slavery. There's so many things that men have done to oppress women that if men feel unsafe to do certain things for a certain period of time and they're on the defensive a little bit, to me, good, because this has happened for so long to so many millions, I would say billions of women over centuries at this point. That now, you know what? Fine. Like guys don't know how to act now. I don't know how to act, but I know who I am. I know that I would never be in a position with a woman where she'd be uncomfortable. I would sense it right away. I would say, are you okay? What's going on? So to me, it's like being conscious of those things. But whenever that comes up is like, oh, how do men feel? Well, who cares at this point? You know what I mean? Like not to even be like, I mean, no, but seriously, it's like enough. Like let women let them do what they need to do right now. And we have been in control annoyingly and stupidly for so long that it's like, I don't care how, like who cares? I mean, I'm sorry, maybe that's a bit much. Of course, every individual deserves a voice, but I don't think that any discussion should be about how guys are feeling right now. I think it should be about how the women feel,
I think it comes down honestly to a very basic thing of, I was talking with my boyfriend the other day about it. We were laughing and I was saying that, like, as a young man, when you were a kid, did your dad teach you how to like readjust? Like men all the time readjust in public, grab their dicks and then move them around. And I'll go to a workout class and wear leggings and, sort of tight pair of pants. What's happening? And I think it's because men are kind of taught that if they're having sex, that they are men, that they are manly, that they are cool. And on the same foot, you're taught as a young woman that is a secretive thing. You do not talk about you having sex because you don't want to be perceived as a slut. And when you're in school, I remember in middle school, it was like you had a choice. You could either be the prude or you could be the slut. There was no you couldn't just be confident and sure of yourself. You were either a slut or you were a prude. And I think it goes back to that, sort of mentality. And I think, I talk about it with my male friends a lot, and they say that like that they're worried about the same thing. Like, did I do something when I was younger that I thought was okay because of the moment that I was in and the moment that the person that I was with was in? Because we went out and we got drunk together and we had a date and then we had sex, because that going to be perceived now as something that it wasn't because of how they felt about it when I didn't necessarily know. And I think that that there are situations like that, where, like I said, it is a gray area, but I think it goes back to how we raise men and women and how we grow up, and I think that has to start early, and I agree with you, Tarek. Like, I understand that, you know, some men are quote unquote afraid, but if that makes people more cautious and more aware of what they're doing, and to go, oh, I went on a date with this girl and she got too drunk, I'm not going to sleep with her tonight. I'm going to
Take her
make
home.
sure she's safe, and I'm going to call her tomorrow and say, hey, we got a little bit too drunk last night. I'm sorry if I left and you wanted something more. Let's hang out later. You know, just really being, you know, cautious and aware of that. I think that is starting on the right path, because it makes people more aware of what they're doing and their surroundings. And it also, like I said, it creates this sort of like I said, I think there's kind of has to be like a generation of like raising men and women, and they have kids and they raise their kids. I mean, this is not going to be something that just changes overnight. And that's what's crazy, is because you're trying to change a mindset that's been ingrained in men and women for years. And that's why predators like take advantage of that sort of thing. And so there is a lot of work to be done, but I agree. I think that we have to all be part of the conversation, and we have to all be aware of what we're doing. And if you're with another person of the same sex, opposite sex, and you're having, you know, a sexual relationship with them, you have to be aware of the fact that that comes with consequences. Just because you can't see them, it doesn't mean that it doesn't sit with both of you.
Yeah. Thank you. And Eve, thank you for the question. And I think as a mother of a boy, it can be challenging to see men falling right now, and casualties of war, because that's what it is. But I do thank you for your statement about it, Tarek. I think it's true, and it's great when we hear men step forward and speak that way. So Scotty, I'm going to bring your mic back on. If you can turn your volume off while you're talking, it was giving us an echo. I think if you turn the volume off, and then after you finish talking, I'll turn your mic off and you can turn it up to hear the response.
Okay. First of all, Deborah, you know I'm one of your biggest fans. What blew me away about this particular movie was, and I think Tarek, you kind of touched on it a little bit, was the slow burn of it. That was almost like a diagram of exactly this is what it looks like for all the people who don't know how this can happen. It can happen to anyone. It's never about the woman. It's about power. It's not what she did or didn't do and all that kind of stuff. And I think the labels that are put on even Ana Rosa, your character, of, you know, an ambitious actress, like, that's not it. Like, what was creepy, and also Tarek, you said earlier that you didn't understand some of this dialogue. I got it completely. I mean, I've been in this business for 35 years. I've had my own children's show, and it so permeates all aspects of production, the power dynamic of an actor, and even as a producer, director, writer that I am, we're always looking for someone else to say yes to us. So we're like, we just want to get to the next yes. So an actor who is going out and putting herself out there and going into the roles knows the rules of make everybody in that room happy. So your dialogue and the logic structure was everything that I've been taught in 35 years of this business, of like, no, this is what you got to do to get to there. And it was like, it was making my skin crawl how much I knew what your next line was going to be to have that. So what I want to know, though, is, since you didn't understand that dialogue, you said that, but also, Deborah, for the question is for you, it's like, how did you put that in there? Because in a lot of respects, you pulled back the curtain on things that I want everybody to know is the power dynamic that's out there, but some people just don't understand that it is that cut and dried. It's not black and white, but it's just like, that's the next thing. Ana Rosa wants this gig. Well, she's got to go out and she's got to say yes to this kind of stuff. You know, you don't even know that you don't have a choice here or there. You're the actor hitting your marks, and this mark is take your clothes off, and you go, oh, I guess that's in there. My agent must have said I was going to do that. You know?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, thank you for the question. I'm going to turn your mic off. Most of the dialogue was taken directly from emails that this man sent to Ana Rosa. She told me the whole story from beginning to end, and then she gave me these emails, and I was able to fill the dialogue in with his literal language, with exactly how he said the words. And it was really amazing the other night when so we found out about the Ana Rosa decided to come forward with her story. We had an interview with the New York Times. In the process of the New York Times doing research, they discovered that a lawsuit against her perpetrator had been put in place, and it had been reported on 3 weeks earlier in the New York Post. That was the first time we knew about this lawsuit, and it was the first time that Ana Rosa knew where her perpetrator was, because she'd been looking for him for 10 years. We had a screening the other night, and 3 of the women who were part of the lawsuit against him were on. And it was really amazing to hear them say, oh my gosh, that's exactly how he talked. That's exactly what he sounded like. And for Tarek to capture that and the truth he brought to it was really reflected in their response to it. And yeah, that's how he spoke. And I was lucky because it was in these emails. I was able to pull it from there. And, you know, as Ana Rosa is saying right now, I was passionate about being as truthful to her story as possible, and using his own words was a way of publicly humiliating him, which was one of the things that Ana Rosa wanted. Hold on, go ahead.
It wasn't just his dialogue. That's the dialogue that any man in that position has said. That's what was crazy. And it's so weird that it's in our bones. This is slightly different, but when I had my own children's show, the mother came to me. Her 16-year-old daughter was the star of the show, and there were 2 puppet characters. And I was shooting at Disney World in Epcot Center. That was the set. And the mother came to me and said, do you want me to bind her? I'm like, bind her? What do you mean? She goes, well, you know, she's starting to show. Do you want me to like wrap her breasts, you know, for so she'll fit into her costume? And I was like, this is the mom. I'm like, wait, what? She goes, well, that's what Disney does. I'm like, no, not on my set. You know, I'm trying to figure out where to put a puppet in this Epcot Center, and you're telling me you want to participate in abusing your own daughter. Like, and she was so just a studio mom. Like, that was not a bad thing for her. She didn't think it was wrong. It was just like part of the business. And, you know, when I made a big deal of it to the agent, I didn't want to throw the mom under the bus. The agent was like, what's your problem? We do this all the time. We write it in the contracts. I'm like, what? So it's such a part of it. Like, I think that's what was so great about the movie was it was not a foreign tongue. It wasn't that it was just a model dude. It wasn't just that dude. It was everybody who believes that that this is okay. Yeah. And I think that's what makes this so powerful and timely is that, you know, this is what it looks like, gang. That's the mirror. So this is what we were fighting against.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think. Go ahead, Anne.
I was going to say, I think it's so true. I think going back to even, I mean, we had this conversation before about like, there's this sort of attitude that I think you're taught in this industry of like, you have to be a team player and you have to be ready to say yes. And I think even from when I was little, it's like, I remember watching when I was really young, watching America's Next Top Model, which is like, they were cutting women's hair on the show. That's part of the show is they do this big makeover and they shave women's heads and they cut their hair and they dye it whatever color they want. And I remember this girl was crying saying she didn't want to shave her head. And Tyra Banks said, if you want a career in this industry, you have to be willing to cut your hair and do whatever somebody says. Like if you get a job at a runway show and they decide they want you to cut your hair, you have to be able to do that. And I always thought that was just modeling. And then you get a job. And I remember that, you know, you go on set and it's like you're working with, you know, the people that you're working with. They have a vision and an idea. And so when you're a kid, very often it's like that's what you're told to do. You know, the set says that they want to cut your hair, and you're just like, oh, well, if you want to keep this job, you cut your hair. And so you say yes. And then I think is you get, and that happens for boys and girls, but I think you see it and you're like, oh, this is just a normal thing. And so when it gets escalated to the point where people are asking, like in this movie, asking something like that of you, you don't want to be perceived as not being a team player. You don't want to be perceived as somebody that's going to say no. You want to be easy to work with. I think, especially to women, I think I'm particularly conscious of the way that I am on every set, because I want to make sure that if I do have an issue and say something, I want it to be heard. And therefore, I always try and make, like, even if there's problems, I make things work until I feel like they have to be discussed, because I don't want to constantly bring up problems, even if there are a lot of them. And I think sometimes you just kind of have to like smile and nod. And in these situations, like the reason why this gets exploited, like you were saying, you know, woman, like this young woman's mom was saying, like, why don't we wrap her? It's because that's become so normalized to her and to her mom that it's like, that doesn't even become a problem, when in fact, it's like you have a 16-year-old young woman and you're trying to keep her in this box playing a child. And that does things to her as she grows up. And she's going to think that she either has to be more private about her body, or maybe, you know, it affects you in ways that I don't think you realize until you get older. And I think that it is really it's a very real thing in the dialogue that Tarek says. Like, I remember when I would listen to it, it would deeply, deeply affect me, because, you know, it's not stupid what he says. It's just the way that it's used is messed up. It's not stupid to say that, you know, we've been trained as women to not have these, you know, womanly powers and to not use them, and that a key player will use whatever they can to get to the top. I mean, that is a manipulative way to abuse something when it's true. Like, I'm not blind to the fact that as a woman, if I dress up a little nicer, I'm treated very differently than if I walk out the way that I am right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is something that we're aware of as women. And to abuse that is really, really messed up. And that's, you know, I agree. I really liked what you said, Scotty, because I think it's true. It really gave me like flashbacks to being a child, and like, you know, they would dress you up a little bit too sexy as a kid. And you're like, this is kind of weird, but I guess this is like what they want you to wear, so you just kind of like wear it and you move on.
Yeah.
So I, you know,
and also I think it's what, and you can speak to this if you want, Tarek. It's he uses the truth to manipulate her. He weaponizes her ambition, but he also speaks the truth as his tool of manipulation. And, you know, it was so interesting to me because oftentimes I spoke to Anna Rosa when she was deciding to come out, and I would say, you don't have to. It's totally up to you. And I was like literally saying the lines that he speaks to Anna Rosa. And it would just be so jarring to me over and over. I kept saying to Anna Rosa, oh my God, I feel like I'm lost. I'm saying the same thing, but bottom line, it's the intention, right? And I think that's what we have to always go back to, is the intention. And it's just interesting. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that I get asked a lot about, you know, why I've had this, a lot of guys actually say this to me of, why didn't he just go to a bar and try to pick up a girl? Why do all this? And it's like, you know, because it's not about the sex at the end of the day for the majority of the reason. It's about the power. It's about the manipulation. It's about, you know, getting, Pearl's character to, in a way, submit to his manipulations. And I think I love what Isabel just said. It's like he's using the truth in the wrong way. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I really love that, Isabel. I agree. And I've had a lot of women come to me and say, after seeing the movie, like, we kind of believed him. Like, there were some things that we bought it. He's not totally lying in everything that he's saying. There is some truth in it. And I think it's somewhere again in the middle. It's like he is saying some version of the truth, but it's some bastardized version that he's, you know, manipulating and using to his own benefit. So, yeah.
It's true. Every HBO show has nudity.
Yeah.
Like, baseline. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I remember when I did Masters of Sex, Lizzie Kaplan had nudity in the first 2 seasons, and when she redid her contract for the 3rd season, she didn't want to anymore. And I remember that there was no nudity anymore in the show because she changed her contract. And like reading interviews of like Emilia Clarke talking about how in her first season of Game of Thrones, her first job ever, they told her, if you want to do the show, you have to do nudity, and she did nudity for the first 3 seasons of the show, and then she rewrote her contract and didn't want to do it anymore. And it's like, I think very often as women, we're kind of put in this situation of like, well, do you want this part, and do you want this, like, all the stuff that comes with it? Well, then you have to sacrifice this little kind of bit of yourself and be okay with it. And that's not, I don't think that that's fair. I feel like if you, like, I remember on the last movie I did, I had like no nipple or butt crack and front nudity on my contract, but like you could see my back, you could see my side boob, which is typically kind of how I do it. And I remember the director wanted to film this scene in a bathroom of me sitting like curled up in a ball overhead where they might possibly see my butt crack. She never said that they might possibly see my butt crack, but I was trying to think about how they would shoot that. I was like, they might possibly see my butt crack. And I remember I came to her and I said, I just want to let you know that I'm okay. If you want to shoot that, you can have the top inch of my butt crack. Totally fine. You know, and I remember we laughed about it because that's like, she's like that. She was like, this is how it should be. Like, you know what I mean? It should be a conversation. And it should be like, well, what do you feel comfortable with? And it should also be like, once you start shooting those things, you start seeing what is taking shape. If you feel comfortable, you should be allowed to like express that. And, you know, I think nudity is used in ways can be really beautiful way to express art. But I think that it's been taken and kind of abused in ways to create entertainment. And that's not what any, like, a male or female form is not entertainment. Like, our bodies are like weird when you think about them. Like, they're, you know, like they're kind of strange when you think about it. We, like, women, we have these big bumps on our chest and these big butts, and like men have balls. It's like kind of weird when you think about it. And yes, of course it can be sexy, but it doesn't have to be people's entertainment. You know, you can still be sensual and beautiful, and that can be your thing to decide where you share it and when. And I think it's more so that it's kind of become an expectation, which is the issue. It becomes an expectation, and then people like that can abuse the expectation. It shouldn't be an expectation. It should be an option that people can decide for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have one question, and my thinking is we'll go to that, and then we will have a round of final comments, and then we'll call it a night. So think of what you want to say while I read this. Not really a question, but a response I read from critics. They stated that they gave the final words of this production was messy. Well, I wish they would watch the movie again and pay attention to Rose's character and how she showed that rape is raw and damaging, and there is no clean way to portray. They actually owe her praise for being able to endure it again in a film, and it shows how empowered her and others are to show the true messy aspects of rape. That's from Lavinia. Thank you, Lavinia. I am happy to be judged. I'm happy to have response to the film from survivors. That's what's meaningful to me. It's meaningful to me how you see it, Lavinia, not how the critics see it. And so I hear you, and I feel the same. And thank you for saying that. So, any any final words that you all want to say as we end our 2-week virtual theatrical release? As we say goodnight to our incredible audience who's been with us on this run, any thoughts you all have either about the making of the film itself, this thing we've done here, this conversation, each other, any final words?
Okay. So the film, it just came out of, like Deborah says, a whisper or a vomit of expressing a fear to Deborah. And by the way, there is a tape out there of me and this motherfucker. And if any of you find it, please feel free to email Full Moon Films. The other women would like their tapes as well. I do think that was something motivating for him because he must have done something with them. So what's cool is I can say that to you right now and not really give a shit because we made a movie and my movie, our movie, is more powerful than that tape that he made, that he took from me. And I just have to share that for anyone who feels that horrific, trapped, locked up feeling of having gone through something like this and that you can't move or get your life back, you can. It starts with like the whisper. Someone will hear you. You might get someone like Deborah who wants to make a movie or tell your story in some way. The other women had, one another, an amazing lawyer, a documentary filmmaker who are impassioned about this and working towards some kind of justice. But I just have to tell you, there is a way to get your life back. That there is some way. I don't know what it looks like. You can't know what it looks like, but just know that like this abuse and men being awful, including how they're being right now, we have to know that this can be taken back by those of us who have earned our power and our place in this world. And they've got to hear us. I don't know how, but we've just got to keep going. And I just feel so lucky and honored to even get to talk to you and share this space with you. And we want to keep talking to you. We'll have ways to do that we'll share on our website. And this all came from a little moment of connection. And the connection is where it all happens. And you are not alone. And there is a way to whatever it is. It's actually creative to just dream of what it would feel like to get your power back. It exists. And we're here for you. And I'm so proud of this film and so grateful for the three of you and everyone involved, our crew and our cast. And this isn't over, like let's see where we go from here. And I love you all.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next, I guess. First of all, the four of us are up here tonight, but I really want to thank, there's so many people that were on set with us that really, really made it possible for us to do our jobs. And so that's our production designer, Michaela, and our wonderful DP, Valentina, and all the wonderful people behind the scenes that really kept that space as safe as we did for each other. So that's first of all, because making a film it's definitely takes, a village. Thank you so much, Deborah, and Ana Rosa for turning this around from what's going on in the world right now, from having a theatrical release into this, because God knows, I don't know who else could have done this. What kind of tenacity you have to have as a human being to be able to really take a theatrical run and turn it into a virtual platform with a week or two time. So that's, basic stuff. I'm thankful that there are people out there like Ana Rosa that have gone through something like this and have chosen to take it and lift it into art and lift it into something that inspires other people. And like you guys were saying before, that it's used to empower other artists, other women, other men who have gone through similar situations at any point in their lives for any reason. It doesn't need to be exactly this. It needs to be that your boundaries were violated in some way, any way that is, that you can make a parallel between the character of Pearl and yourself. I think there's a lot to learn. I think men have a long way to go. I think misogyny is systemic, and it takes work like this. It takes some kind of slap you in the face work to wake the audience up and say, whoa, like I've seen this. I've heard of this. I have been in these situations before. And that's why this work is so, so important. And honestly, on an actor level, like this is the kind of role that you become an actor for. So Deborah, thank you. Ana Rosa, thank you. Pearl. Isabel, thank you so much for being creating that space on set and before set and after set and now and before we start even shooting, of like, you know, being so supportive and making it safe, because I was scared shitless too. I didn't want people to perceive me as the character. Obviously that happens all the time. And you created a really beautiful, gentle space for me to be able to do my job and not feel like a piece of shit, honestly, like a manipulative bastard. So I don't want to be too long. I love you guys. I have an enormous amount of respect for you, Deborah and Ana Rosa and Isabel, for what all the Q&As that you've done this whole week has been remarkable. So I hope the film gets the audience it deserves. I really, really, really want it to get out there because it's being a part of something. It's not just a movie, it is something else.
Thank you, Tarek. Isabel, any words? Because I'm going to have the last word, I've decided.
Yes. I want to thank not only the people in this room, but like the incredible crew and every single person who played a part in making this movie happen. I mean, it really genuinely takes a village to make something like this. And I want to thank Tarek for being just an incredible scene partner. Not only was the space safe and respectful and comfortable, but we could also joke with each other too, which I think is the sign of like really being in a space that feels good. It's like we could laugh about stuff and make fun of the fact that he was wearing a sock like for the whole day. No, but seriously, you know, you it's very hard to, you know, you can create I think a safe space where everyone's respectful, but really being able to create a space that's respectful and also like fun when you're working on something as powerful and as meaningful and as true as this, really makes the day so much better and makes it so much easier for us to open up in the way that we were able to on this movie. And Ana Rosa, truly for your bravery and your inspiring openness to share the story, not only with us, but with the world. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think watching Ana Rosa take on this part, it was watching her find the badass girl with the dragon tattoo within and like taking it out of her chest and being like, here I am, bitches. And I really think that it was the movie itself, I think working on it, I think changed a lot for you and allowed you to see yourself in the way that I think all of us and Deborah has seen you for a very long time, clearly. I mean, that's why she wrote this character the way that she did. This powerful badass that you are, but also to be able to be that and open and vulnerable, which is a huge gift that you have, and to allow me to basically step into your shoes and trust me with that. I really, truly am so grateful and appreciative. Deborah, for sending me the script and thinking of me when you wrote it, and for remembering little old me from the first movie that we did together when I was 7. And for, I mean, if anybody knows Deborah, she is a powerhouse, and I think is so much more deserving of accolades and awards than any director that I've worked with. And I know that it's going to happen because she will make it fucking happen. I think, no, seriously. I mean, but like Tarek said, I mean, this premiere wasn't going to happen in real life. And she was like, fuck it, we're putting it online. It's going to be on the internet and people are going to deal with it. And really, truly, I mean, I think this is probably one of, if not the first, like virtual premiere that people are doing. And she's at the forefront of that. And that's because she wouldn't take no for an answer. And that's how she got this movie made. And that's how she was able to tell the story. And that's how I feel like, you know, this space that she created for us was so open and incredible, and I'm just really grateful for her guidance and her help on this journey. And then I want to thank Ken, our producer, who produced this movie and made it for us. Without him, genuinely a male ally who was like, how does this sort of thing happen? And heard Anna Rosa's story and read Deborah's script and was like, oh, that's how it happens, and believed in this from the very beginning. And thank you to everyone for being a part of the conversation. I mean, like I said, I think this movie is way more than just a film. It spurs conversations that I think we all should be having, and we really have, I think, built a community online. So please share it with the people that you know and the people that you love, and pass the word on. I mean, I think, right, Deborah, it's still going to be available for people to rent online. So, you know, it's not like they have anything better to do. Watch a movie that will, like, truly change your life while you're in quarantine.
Plan their next meal and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do? We have a long time.
What else are you going to do?
So thank you guys so much, really, truly. And I will let Deborah have the last word.
Well, it won't be a long word. It's just already been said. Thank you to our crew, who was just extraordinary. We shot this film in 12 days. And that was everyone giving all of themselves. I have to thank my husband, who's sitting right over there on the bed. He lights up my life and my sets and my room here for my Q&As, and did such an extraordinary job. And he's my rock. And, you know, I think the reason I can, like, you know, make shit happen is I get to sob in his arms every night and then go back to work in the morning. So none of this would happen without him as well. So it feels like an Oscar speech, right? We're all making our speeches.
Whatever. There's no Oscars this year, so go for it.
And my daughter, I want to thank my daughter, who makes me tell the truth about women's lives every day. I love you, Sophia. I think she's still on here watching. It's true. I actually want to make, I know, I want to make films like this for my daughter. Do you know? She inspires me every day to try to make the world better for women and her. Anyway, this audience, holy shit, you know, thank you all for being here. The reason I wanted to do this online release was primarily to create community, because that's what was so special about every time we screen this film. The four of us were at test screenings, and then we were also the three of us at Female Eye, and to have people come up to us after the screenings and share their stories. It was a spontaneous sharing after every screening. It was like the end of the movie would happen in real time. And it just felt so important to hold a space for people to continue sharing the stories. And we're just grateful everyone came out and did that with us. As Anna Rosa mentioned, we are creating on our website, which is thetapemovie.com, a space which will probably be up next week, where people can share their stories. You can share videos of your stories. You can share written or oral, sharing of your stories. And we want to hold the space for that and continue holding the space for that. This site, not the Crowdcast, but on Tape Virtual Premiere, you can go there any day and rent the film. You get 3 days to watch it. So please spread the word about that. We were supposed to start our online release tomorrow, April 10th, on Amazon, iTunes, Microsoft, and Google Play. that is still coming. We just don't have a date for it yet. When COVID hit, the team that's putting that up for us had to begin working remotely, and it's just, there's a backlog, as I'm sure everyone can imagine. So as soon as we know when that's up, we're going to share the word with you all. You all are now our allies in getting the film out. So please, when it's especially out on Amazon, iTunes, just share far and wide. We would be so grateful. This is a word of mouth film, and so we need your words sharing with your friends. And again, thank you all so much. When we get to the other side, we're going to have a special cast and crew screening, and we'll all drink. So till then, toast to everyone. Anna Rose is drinking already. The most important thank you I almost forgot, which is these three people up here. I just have to say thank you all for bringing all of yourself to this. I mean, what you gave is incredible. This film would be nothing without your souls that you revealed and shared, and for carrying Anna Rose's story so deeply and beautifully. I have to tell that Tarek called me after the last day sobbing, and I know how hard it was for you to hold this story and this role, and without you having done that, there would be no story here. And Isabel, I know it's already been said, but for Anna Rosa to see your performance and say she feels less stupid, I mean, for you to give the gift of the truth of her experience in a way that, changes her experience on that deep of a level is just such a gift. To Anna Rosa, to me, to the film, it's just incredible. And Anna Rosa, thank you for trusting me with your story. It means everything to me that we made this together. And I love you. And I can't wait for all of us to work together again. And I'll see you all on the other side and give you the biggest hugs. I love you all so much.
Love you.
Love you.
Good night.
Love you.
Thank